Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from SkiEssentials.com. Welcome to our 2026 ski test. Today we're talking about the Black Crow's Mirus Core. One of one here. There's really nothing else out there like the Mirus Core. It's a pretty special ski. It's a very, very unique ski, and it's really just all about fun. There are certainly plenty of things that you can't do on the Mirus Core, or at least that it doesn't love doing. But if you ski it kind of within the vibe of the Mirus Core, it is so much fun. And like maybe the best way I can describe it is if skiing is starting to bore you, which I sure hope it isn't for anybody because it's just so much fun, get a Mirus Core. I guarantee you if you've never skied this thing and you get on it, you will be like, your mind will be opened up to a whole different possibility of what you can do on skis. And I think you see that reflected in the feedback from our ski test, our 3-day ski test event. I was just kind of browsing through feedback and I saw a lot of 10s. You know, we have a numeric ranking of certain criteria of skis from 1 to 10, and just kind of looking through it, 10s were popping up all over the place. And we don't even see many 10 out of 10 scores, and a lot of those were for overall impression, which I just think is really cool. And it's pretty rare that I talk to somebody who's skied a Mirus Core and doesn't like it or didn't have a good time. Whether or not that person would choose to own one, I think that's a very, very different story, and we can get to that. But just about everyone agrees that it's really, really fun to ski. Poplar wood core in here, 87 underfoot. We'll look at shape in a second because it is pretty interesting, but just the fact that it's 87 underfoot, probably important to start with. Poplar wood core in here, and there is a partial sheet of Titanal. It doesn't extend all the way through the tips and tails of the ski, but you do get a little bit of metal in here, which I think is important to its overall performance. If it wasn't there, I don't know that you could ski it quite as hard as you can. It's not heavy. You know, it does have that metal in there, but it's not heavy at all. This is a 178 centimeter length, and it's just under 1,700 grams, 1,698 on the scale here. So not a heavy metal-clad ski, but nice to know that you do have a little bit of metal in there. And then pretty round, soft flex pattern. You know, I think, again, if you were just to like think of skis with metal, I think most of us think to really stiff skis, but the Mirus Core is not stiff at all in a longitudinal format. I will say it has pretty darn good torsional stiffness, especially underfoot, which absolutely comes through in its performance. And then shape is where things really get unique with the Mirus Core. It's just, there's nothing else on the market that's really like this. A couple things that are similar, but nothing is quite like the Mirus Core. So we have a twin tip shape here. I think that's pretty obvious just looking at the ski. First impression, that's a twin tip. It is paired with some decent rocker. You know, it's not just camber underfoot and then twin tip. It is a rocker, camber, rocker ski that's also a twin tip, and a decent amount of camber underfoot there. And it is a 13-meter turn radius. So that's a really, really small turn radius. We're getting into like slalom ski territory for turn radius, and there's really nothing else in the twin tip world that has a turn radius this small. And then somewhat famously, it's got this swallowtail back here. I think, like, whether you know much about swallowtails or not, I think a lot of people think of soft snow performance when they think of swallowtails like a fish snowboard and how it lets the board sink. And there are some skis that kind of use it in a similar way. In the Mirus Core, it's actually kind of just like taking out a little bit of torsional stiffness right at the end of the ski, so you can choose when to kind of exit your turn or how to finish your turn. And I just think that's a really cool kind of characteristic that the Mirus Core has. Like I said, we had a ton of different people on it in our ski test. I would strongly encourage you to read feedback from all those different people because there's some really, really good feedback, and it's very insightful just reading about a ski from so many different people. But as far as my experience goes, I like it so much that I own one, and I just find that on a Mirus Core you can do things that you can't really do on anything else. The way that it makes these beautiful round carving turns on groomers is just incredibly rewarding, and like gives me similar vibes of being on like a competition slalom ski, but because it's softer and because the tips and tails are you know, pretty wide, it's a lot more forgiving than being on a ski like that. So you get like the lateral acceleration feeling, you get those like just really rewarding G-forces as you're skiing, but it's really easy to do that. And then you can like rip around on a groomer and make all these fun carving turns, and then you can go ski in the park, and the ski feels just as home in the park too. You can ski at switch, you can do all sorts of jibby things on it, you can butter it. It's just like, it's so much fun to ski. Now that said, a couple things that it doesn't do like particularly well. I would say that it has a speed limit. I think that's pretty fair to say. Especially has a speed limit if you're in a carving turn. It definitely prefers to stay within a certain turn radius and within a certain speed. And that's part of its fun factors, because you get all this fun performance without having to go really fast. So if you're on really firm snow and trying to ski really fast, it's not going to perform very well, but that's not really its intention. And then from everybody that I've talked to, I'd say the Mirus core world is a little split on its off-piste performance. I just think it's not its highlight. You can definitely take it off trail and you can go ski some trees, you can go ski some moguls and stuff like that. It handles it just fine. I don't think it's as good as, say, something like the Black Crow's Cactus. I think is an exceptionally good mogul ski, an exceptionally good tree ski for also being a twin tip. You can do it on the Mirus core. So I've talked to people that are wondering whether it could be one ski quiver for them, or what they ski on most at least. And while I don't necessarily think that's the most common reason to buy a Mirus core, it is possible. I think the sweet spot for buying a Mirus core is if you already have a couple other skis and you just want something really, really fun and really different. It's certainly both of those things. It's certainly really, really fun, and it's very different than just about anything else out there on the market. So that's it. That is the Black Crow's Mirus core. Let us know if you have any questions about it, and we will see you out there on the slopes.